This is the first of 3 videos where I explain why actual genetic relationships vary from what is expected. In this first video, I will explain a relatively simple method for calculating the expected percentage of DNA you would share with close and distant relatives. I also explain relationship terminology, such as second cousin once removed. I originally recorded these videos just before getting my post-COVID lockdown haircut, so you may notice a bit of difference in the hair length. Okay, so I'll begin with you. So there you go, there's you. Now, you will expect that you do, share half of your DNA with any child you have. And that child will share half of their DNA with their child, being your grandchild. Assuming you have a child or grandchild, but anyway. Now, so, compared to you, your child will have half your DNA, or 50%, and the grandchild will have a quarter, or you would expect that anyway, a quarter of your DNA, or 25%. Okay, then you get half your DNA from your parent. So I'll put a half there. So I'll just do the percentage. So that's 50%. And they would have gotten half their DNA from each of their parents or grandparent for you. So once again, that would be 25%, or 1/4. Now, your parent will have another child possibly, and they will give half their DNA to them. So that will be your sibling. Now, you generally would expect to share half your DNA with a full sibling because you have 2 parents, but each of your, so you go up 1/2 and down 1/2, that's a quarter. Because you've got 2 parents, you double that and you get a half. Well, you may not share 2 parents with that sibling, but I'm dealing with full relationships to start with. So once again, 50%. Now, your sibling may have a child, which will be your niece or nephew. I'll just put N to save time, and once again, they'll give half their DNA to that child, and you would expect to share a quarter of the DNA with your niece or nephew, so 25%. Now, if they have a child, that will be your great niece or nephew, I think. Yep. And once again, half, so that's 1/8. Or 12.5%. Okay, so now we can come up here. Your grandparent may have had another child. Okay, so from you, we have half times a half is a quarter, times a half is an eighth. And that person to you will be an aunt or uncle. I'll just do AU. And that would be, what have we got? What did I say? An eighth. So that's 12.5%. Now that aunt or uncle may have had a child, which will be your first cousin. I'll just write 1C. Now, is that right? Oh no, I know what I've done there. You've got 2 grandparents, so that should have been multiplied by 2, giving a quarter. So that should actually be 25%. So a full aunt and uncle, yep. So they then give half to their child, which is your first cousin, a full first cousin, and that will be 1/8, or the 12.5%. Yeah, I'll do 12.5. Now that cousin, first cousin of yours, they may have a child, and we call that a first cousin once removed. So I shall do 1C, 1R. And once again, they've given half their DNA, so then that is 6.25%, or the 1/16. And they'll have a child, possibly. And that will be your first cousin twice removed. So the removed is you're in that generational line, so there's 1 generation away from your generational line and 2 generations from your generational line from your first cousin. So they'll give half there, which works out to 1/32, which is about 3 point, I'll round it. So what is it? 3.13%. I want to go to 2 decimal places. Okay. So now we go up to your great grandparent. Hopefully we're still in frame. Okay, that'll be another half difference. So 25%, so that will be 1/8, or the 12.5% again. Okay, so your great-grandparent may have had another child besides your grandparent, and that will end up being your, what is it, great aunt uncle. Yeah, so I'll do great AU. Okay, and they would have given half their DNA, so you follow that line again. So because you've got 2 great-grandparents, because we're doing the full side, you'll have the 1/8. And you, yeah, so that's 12.5% again. Yeah, there you go. Now if they have a child, that will be your parents' first cousin. Okay, so now it's your parents' first cousin and they're in your parents' line, so we put it as first cousin, but as it's one generation away from you, we do it as once removed. And that will be the half again, which is 1/16. And that's 6.25%. So now we come down to your generation. Now you both share great-grandparents, and it's not your first cousin, because in the same line as your parent it's a first cousin, but in the same line from a great-grandparent they're a second cousin. And we multiply by a half again to give you 1/32, which, as we worked out before, is 3.13%. And they're a second cousin to you, come down the generation. You've got a second cousin once removed. So basically anyone in your parents' line will be once removed, anything in your child's line will be once removed. But in your parents' line, it's a first cousin, so anything above, you do it by whatever generation it is and how many away you are. So the once removed, twice removed, once removed, twice removed. Okay, so we're down to 1/64. Whoops, yeah, 64. Which works out at, I'll have a double check that figure. Yeah, so 1.56, yeah, 1.56. 1.56% rounded. Then you come down to your second cousin twice removed, and we do the halves, and it comes to 0.7, what is that one? 0.78%, or the 1/128. Okay, so that is for full siblings. I'll now give you a simple method of working out how much DNA you share with any particular relative. So in drawing a graph or a chart like this, you have to go, okay, I'm here. You will count how many generations up to your common ancestor. So if we say, look at your second cousin, we have 1, 2, 3, and then we come down 4, 5, 6. So the formula will be 1/2 to the power 6, because they're your second cousin. So I will put, say, n there as a symbol for general things. But, yep, so we've got a half, and then to the power 6. But because you have two great-grandparents that in common, so it's not just one, so it's two ancestors in common, you will multiply that by 2. So you count how far up you go, how far down you go, put that as the power, and multiply your result by 2 because you've got two common ancestors together. Yeah. So half to the power 6, so 2 to the power 6, say, so you've got 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, so it's 1/64, but you're multiplying by 2, So it would be 1 on 32. And that's what we've got, 1 on 32. Okay, so I've worked that out. Now, if you're looking at half siblings, or sorry, if there's only one common ancestor, so for example, your great-grandparent had children by two other people, so in other words, you've only got one common great-grandparent, not two, then we would call all these ones here halves. And the amount of relationship would be half what you have on this side. So I'll draw that for you, but I'll speed it up quickly so I don't waste much of your time, then I'll move on to the next bit. Okay, and we're done. Now you can also see from this that once you get towards the second, third cousin stage, you share very little DNA at all. It's getting under 1%. So you will find that you might know people that you are sure are third cousins and possibly even second, but when you're looking at your matches, they won't come up. Doesn't mean they're not related, it just means it's that small, the system can't detect it and they don't show up as a match. In the second video of this three-part series, I will explain why actual genetic relationships vary from what we expect. So make sure you subscribe and click on the bell to be notified when I upload future videos. I'm David A. Elliott. Have a good one and see you around like a ristle.